Alright, so on this video we are going to be going through the first day of multiplying integers with counters. Up to this point we have done addition and subtraction of integers with counters, and we're going to talk about how multiplication is a little bit different. I'm not sure it's entirely trickier, but it's definitely just a little different process that we're going to talk about. So just like we do with addition and subtraction, I think it's best if we write it out in words first, what's going on. So we're always going to say blank groups of blank counters. The first number, or the first thing, I guess, is going to be a number. And it comes from the first number in the problem. And then the second blank is also going to be a number and a color. And that comes from the second number. So I know that seems like a lot. Okay, it's going to be fine. But it really is just probably most obvious if we just go through some examples of how this is going to work. So how would we write the following problems in words? Literally what we're doing with multiplication is we are counting groups of a certain number every time. So in the first example, okay, 3, that's going to tell me the number of groups. So 3 groups of... And then the second number is going to tell me how large my groups are and what color my groups are. So if you notice, this is a positive 4. So it's going to be 3 groups of 4 yellow, because it's positive, counters. Now you might be wondering, well, why do I not say the color for the 3? Well, today all of the first number is going to be positive. Okay, it's always going to be positive, so we only use that first number for the number of groups. B, we can do the same way. 2 groups of 6 red counters. Okay, so on the first one, since I was multiplying 3 by a positive 4, I had yellow counters. Now I'm multiplying 2 by a negative 6, so the groups of counters I have are all going to be red. And again, the first number today is always going to be positive. The second number can be positive or negative, so you do want to pay attention to that. For C, again, the first number is always positive, and this one it's negative, so I'm going to be dealing with red counters. I have 5 groups of 4 red counters. 5 groups of 4 red counters. And then I can do the same thing on the last one. Okay, notice sometimes multiplication looks different. So sometimes it's going to be a dot. That's a little multiplication dot. Sometimes it's going to be parentheses. Okay, either way, it's going to mean multiplication. You can still do number of groups and then the color of the counters we're using. So just keep that in mind. But yes, I did intentionally mix that up today. So this one we have 2 groups of 8 red counters. All right, so again, like I said, the first step is writing these in words, so we have practiced that. Now we're actually going to take these same problems and we are going to see what that would look like for counters. So what would the above scenarios, oh, that's supposed to be scenarios. Whoops, scenarios, somebody can't type. What would the above scenarios look like in counters? How can we use that to find the correct product? Remember guys, product is answer to multiplication. So if you guys are wondering what the heck product means, that's it. Commit that one to memory. So what we're saying is, how can we, use counters to explain the above scenarios to get the answer to the multiplication problem? So I'm just going to go ahead and steal these. You guys are welcome to reference your previous page, or if you two want to just rewrite them, that's fine. Okay, so this is the words we said 3 groups of 4 yellow counters, okay? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw those out, okay? So all I know is I have yellow counters, okay? 3 groups of 4 yellow counters. So I'm going to have one group of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's my first group. I'm going to have 2 groups of 4 and 3 groups of 4. All right. Well, you can see that I end up with this whole group of counters. Okay, they're out now all being counted together. So 3 groups of 4 yellow counters gives me 12 yellow counters. 12 yellow counters gives me positive 12. All right, the nice thing about some of these multiplication problems is you probably know you did it right because 3 times 4 is something you can do in your head. Now, the reason that these are more helpful later on is when you don't know something in your head, or if you are getting tripped up with the positives and negatives, you can then rely on this method. So the second example, I have 2 groups of 6 red counters. So again, I know you can't copy your handwriting quite like I'm doing this, but we have 2 groups of 6 red counters. So I'm going to get my red out. Okay, 2 groups of 6 red counters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have another group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the answer is going to come from the total of counters I have. So I have 6 red and 6 more red. So that's going to give me 12 red counters. So negative 12 is going to be the answer to that one. Okay, and again, a lot of you guys have seen this in the past. If you multiply a positive times a negative, it gives you a negative. 2 times 6 is 12. So negative 12 is definitely a logical answer for question B. All right, on question C. And I guess I can steal both of these at once. Yes, efficiency. Okay, so on question C, I have 5 groups of 4 red counters. So again, we're going to use red counters this time. I have 5 groups of 4 reds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's group number 1. This is group number 2. Group number 3. Group number 4. Group number 5. All right, so there are my 5 groups of red counters. So all I care about now is the total of red counters I have. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that means that my answer on this one is going to be negative 20. Again, we're going through the process because I realize a lot of you guys would know that number off the top of your head. We're just showing how counters can be used for multiplication as well. What do you bet we can use counters on everything? And then same thing on the last example, 2 groups of 8 red counters. So I'm going to get out my red counters. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's group number 1. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's group number 2. How many do I have total? Well, I have 8 and 8, so that gives me 16. And they're all red, so negative 16. Again, an example of a positive times a negative giving me a negative. 2 times 8 being 16. So that is just some basic examples of how you can use counters to do multiplication. But I will be going over some of the more advanced examples later on in this class. I do want you to take a couple minutes to try on your own, writing out the problems in words. So A, B, C, D, write them out in words. Model with counters, and then find the product. So go ahead, pause this video right now, take a minute to try and do A, B, C, and D, and then I will go over them with you in a second. All right, so welcome back. The first thing that you were instructed to do is go through and write these out in words. So the first one is 7 groups of 2 yellow counters. I realize now you probably don't need to write counters every time. You know what we're talking about, but you know, I like following a pattern. So 7 groups of 2 yellow counters. So get my yellow out. Group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7. So there's all my groups. And then you need to count how many do we have total. Well, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 yellow counters. So that's going to be a positive 14. Again, I realize a lot of you can just go straight to 14 in your head, but we care about the process. We care about the patterns going on the off chance that you forgot 7 times 2. This is certainly a way you could go back and rely on. B is going to be 3 groups of 5 red counters. So I'm going to use my red pen, and I'm going to make 3 groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I now have 3 groups of 5 red counters. That's what I was looking for. Again, red means negative, and then I have 5, 10, 15. So that's my answer. Okay. A lot of times I can kind of trip you guys up by giving you an overly simplified question. So 1 times -3. But again, I'm testing whether or not you know how to do the process. So this is 1 group of 3 red counters. Okay, well, what does that look like? It's literally 1 line of 3 red counters. Okay, and don't let it trip up your brain. 3 red counters just gives me -3, which would make sense. If I have 1 group of 3 red counters, then I only have 3 red counters, so -3. And then last but not least, 6 times -3. So that's going to give me 6 groups of 3 red counters. All right, so group number 1, group number 2, group number 3, group number 4, group number 5, group number 6. Okay, they're all red, so it's going to be negative, and then you got to count up the total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So -18 is going to be the product. Again, the product is the answer to a multiplication question. So we have 8 different products on this notes sheet because we did 8 problems. So after this, you need to do the quizzes game. You will be doing this individually. You need to go to join.quizzes.com, or if that's not working, you can search Join Quizzes in the address bar. And then here is your code, 440442. There's no reason to rush through this. You can be doing this for the end of the hour. If not, if you have extra time, I suppose the substitute does have some extra assignments and things you can work on. So you're welcome to ask for those as well. But again, I would take your time working on the quizzes, making sure you understand how grouping with multiplication works. And I really appreciate you guys behaving and being the good students I know you can be. See ya on Thursday.